view from the bottom. And then some important themes are these eco-social systems we'll use, of course never in Francis's language, but we'll co-opt this. It's about seeing humans and nature as interconnected and interdependent. It's compatible with science. Bonaventure said that there's a book of creation, and the artist who wrote that book, the author who wrote that book, as we read through it, it tells us about that author. And we know that as we study ecosystem science, it tells us about the glory of God who created this. In creation, a person can experience more deeply the presence of God, so we actually need creation in order to experience God in that way. And then certainly living lifestyles, right relationships helps to create a deeper connection. It allows us to enter into that transformation process. So here's a summary. We can sum it all up, which is always a good thing to do. The story is, my church is in ruins, rebuild my home. Rebuild my home. And the image is slightly different from that Noahic covenant. We look at the relationship between Christ, other humans in creation. So maybe something like this. By the way, this doesn't quite fit together. I noticed that little piece. Well, there's my Navajo rug yet again. But maybe something that looks a little bit more like this. So we look today then, we're in a different time, completely different time. With new information, new things that are happening for us. We need to take a look at the world around us. God calls us to look at these, to see what's going on, and to respond. And I would say that these are also very negative times. There's lots of terrible things to fret about, but are also very, very positive times. Here's some environmental issues. These should not be new to anybody here, as long as we've been awake. It includes a variety of issues: water pollution, loss of wetland, energy crisis, deforestation. The New York Times this morning had additional things to add onto this list, and certainly a focus on climate change. We'll take a look at that one. So the Catholic approach to climate change. We must address climate change because for us, more than a political or scientific correct, more than political, scientific, or ecological issue, it's spiritual, ethical, and moral. Why now are we looking at climate change? Well, we do have new data, we have new science, we understand our world in a different way, and we understand the problems in a different way. We have new science from the International Panel on Climate Change. There's increased public awareness. This dialogue, this story about climate change is getting out there. There's local, regional, national, international strategies that are going on. It's being talked about and responded to all over. Catholic leaders are responding to it. The president who's responding to it. So this is what we call, in my field, a policy window, an opportunity. A couple of documents that talk about that from a Catholic perspective. And now we have an opportunity as Franciscan Catholics to respond. So what's the status of the Catholic environmental vocation? All these stewards of the earth? We did a little research a while back, relatively recently, to look at how Catholics are responding to that. Now, values-wise, they're saying to some degree the right things. Some people consider the impact of products they regularly buy. Some are involved in recycling. Some have taken some kind of action on behalf of the environment. Some people, only 20% said they've actively confronted a litter bug. That went through in for my daughter because she's been aware of litter and her responsibility for picking that up these days. And some more, 87% said that protecting the environment is an important issue, and so forth. So we're finding that their value systems pretty much align with the American value system that's increasingly aware of our connection to the earth and what we need to do with that. But their behavior is not following what they know, which is why it's critical that we have a Franciscan approach. Dr. Sherry Smith, she's at Lemoyne College, a Jesuit school. I just found out the Jesuits are Catholics, so this is okay. So my Franciscan colleagues said that they were, so I'm trusting them. So it's unfortunate more Catholics are not aware of the Church's support for protection and stewardship of the earth and the mandate that they get involved. It's a faith issue. Their salvation is linked to this. So here's some implications for this. I was looking at this. I've tried to make it part of my life. I created the Franciscan Ecology Center to respond to that vocational issue. So let me leave you with some images here. The Franciscan Ecology Center came up with, looking at all of that, we came up with 7 focuses for what we call Franciscan ecology. And Franciscan ecology would be an applied Franciscan approach to care for creation. So we said we need to look at and expand on eco-spirituality, eco-theology. We need to look at the ecological science and begin to dialogue with that. We need to look at service. We have to respond to service. We need to look at sustainable environmental management. We have lots of facilities in the Catholic Church. We're very good at that. We need to make sure that our facilities are consistent with what we say we believe. Environmental justice, the bad environmental decision-making impacts the poor first and foremost. And then environmental education and leadership, we need to look at where we're going in the future. Without that, we cannot. So we promote these 7 applied components of Franciscan ecology. We can take up this Franciscan environmental vocation, and we can be hopeful about where we go as opposed to getting depressed about where we need to go. So a few models that I've developed. These are pilot projects that I developed over the years, and we incorporate that into our current our current Catholic system. We began a program in Arizona, getting young people engaged in the environment. We adopted a similar program in Syracuse in the inner city, work with minority youth. Have done retreats, getting young people actually out there to find God in creation. We've done workshops to get the information out to people. We do environmental education. We've done it in Syracuse, New York, and Albany, New York, particularly on the campus at Siena College. We just created this year a 4-H Earth Club using a secular model, but it's infused with all those Franciscan themes. We do advocacy. We did a couple of events on environmental justice and then climate justice. We get involved in research so that we can take science and incorporate it in our decisions. We do all kinds of service. We are developing some opportunities for some mission work, including an international ecological sanctuary, Franciscan ecological sanctuary, that began with a trip to Bolivia. We do internships, engage young people. In a particular program that we use is our Franciscan Earth Corps. It's a way to just kind of put things together in a nice, neat package and have students come together in an organized way to respond to this. Very action-oriented. And our Franciscan Earth Clubs are actually for high school students. We have a college version and a high school version. Focused again on all of those themes that we said were important that come out of our Franciscan tradition. So the Franciscans are needed. If we just looked at Mr. White, Dr. White's response, we know that we're needed. But what we need is this systemic approach. We need to find that Franciscan voice and look at the bigger picture of where we're going with this. And we need to come up with these new models and usher in this movement. We need to tell a new story. We need to form these communities of formation and transformation. We need to look at the systems change that's preventing us from moving forward. And we need to put them into applied ministries and service. So this being here this year, and next year, and the following year, and the following year, will be a key point of that strategy. That we would come together as a Franciscan family and share our experiences. Perhaps could create Franciscan tracks or a pre-conference here. We could look at doing interdenominational discussions, particularly from a Franciscan perspective and what that means for others. The nice thing about Francis is he's not owned just by Catholics. There are many of our Protestant brothers and sisters, and even I'm reminded by some of my Jewish friends that they love him too. The Christocentrism was a little difficult for them. They're moving. Certainly some environmental advocacy, which we will do on Monday. A key piece of that, then, is this C4C curriculum. So it's rooted in all of those pieces that we said we need to do. Is if we're going to offer a Franciscan voice, it needs to be rooted in that. So it has the ethics, the processes, and those Franciscan themes. What we want to do is we want to form communities and put people through these processes where they're going through a curriculum, but the curriculum encourages this conversion process. They come together as a community, not as a teacher to learners, but as a community that's saying we need to learn, be transformed, and out of that transformation, we do. We learn, we do, we respond.